This is my first ever indie dev interview on the podcast, and I've got a really good one. John Common, the creator of the upcoming Dead Pixels 2, agreed to come onto the show. He's a really nice guy and he's really passionate about what he does, which I'm sure will come through in the podcast. We actually ended up chatting for about an hour after the podcast, and we both agreed that it would have been good to leave the mics recording because we talked about some interesting things. That was my fault because I'm new to this, but hopefully John will come onto the show again sometime and we can talk some more. Before the podcast started, I just wanted to let everyone know you can follow John on Twitter. His name on there is @CSR_studios. You should follow that so you can stay up to date with everything that's happening with Dead Pixels 2. So with that being said, let's go on with the podcast. So welcome to the GoldenEdge podcast. I'm really excited today to be joined by John Common from Can't Strafe Right Studios. John's the man behind Dead Pixels and the upcoming Dead Pixels 2. So how are you doing today, John?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's Saturday and it's sunny over here, so is it sunny where you are?
It's not as sunny as it was the past few days, but it's still quite warm today.
Can't Strafe Right Studios, it's really that you're the one man behind the whole thing then? You're the only person doing this?
Yeah. I don't do music. I don't really do sound effects. I just edit sound effects I get together. But I do art design and coding. I do get like the odd piece of art, contracted out. I've recently got some sprite work done by another person because I'm not good at drawing legs, and I'm even worse at animating legs. So I've got someone doing player legs recently. Yeah. I just send descriptions of legs, and then he sends me them back animated, which is nice because it saves me spending like an entire day trying to make a walk animation look good.
When you could be doing something else.
Yeah. That's the issue. Like if I ever get stuck doing something, then I am, not doing anything else for that day.
Because of some legs.
Yeah, there was like last year there was like a week where I was like just trying to animate one enemy, and like I was miserable at the end of the week because all I could think was like I have done nothing this week other than this one enemy because I couldn't get his throwing animation looking correct.
Yeah. So what about the actual cover, the artwork cover then? Did you do that yourself?
No, that was contracted out. There's a guy, I found him on DeviantArt. He goes by the username Grimbro. And like I think I was just searching DeviantArt for like horror movie posters, and I found like this guy, and like all his art was great, and it was like all films I liked. So I was like, okay, I've got enough of a connection with this guy just from that I could probably like message him and kind of tell him what I wanted. I've got 3 bits of work done from him now because I'd done a temporary box art that was inspired by a movie. I don't want to mention it because like I like when people work it out. Yeah, you'll
associate that every time you look at it as well.
Yeah, there was a when I was at Resd in Birmingham, I had a kind of competition. I had these fake VHS boxes made up of the game, and I was giving them away, and my thought was like, okay, if you can guess what the movie reference is in the box art, I'll give it away. And the first person I said that to, he just instantly got the film. And there was a little later, there was this developer I know quite well now, just happened to be like walking by the stand, and he just kind of like turned to me and just said the name of the movie. So I think it was really obvious for some people, and then some people just went straight over the head. So I really liked that. So I got that, and then I got another piece of art done that's used here and there, and then I got the current box art done, which I've done. I've got it done much higher resolution, so we can make posters and hopefully get them on a store page at some point.
Okay, well, I actually do want to ask you a bit about movies, but I think we'll wait until later on in the interview, and I want to probably just focus a bit on Dead Pixels 2, because I know a lot of people that are clicked on this, or that's probably what they can't wait to find out about. So I want to start actually not really on the game, but more about accessibility to Dead Pixels 2, because I understand that the Xbox One doesn't have an indie sort of games part anymore. So that's just going to be completely out the window, or
they have this thing called Xbox at ID, I think it is, which is indie developers, and I signed up. And they send me emails every now and then that have useless information.
Oh, brilliant.
And they always say, like, this is confidential, don't share this. And there's nothing of use in it at all.
Oh, my goodness.
And that's where I kind of stand with
Great
Microsoft
support
just now, which is kind of sad. But
I don't actually have an Xbox One, but from what I've heard, that it's just completely packed full of unuseful apps and items, and I just can't believe that they don't have an indie part anymore.
It's weird that, like, it seems like all kinds of things are getting on that, and yet, like, I got put in the category that's like, no, we don't want this person just now. It's not ruled out completely, Xbox One. There is, I'm in talks, but it's not going to be like a priority. It's not going to be something I can do by myself. I think at this point, there was a point like a year ago, maybe even like about a year ago, where like if Microsoft had got in touch, I could have made changes. But we're at this point now where we're just too far into the game I can redo it for Xbox One. As it stands just now, like PS4 would be an easy jump to do, and I have contacts at Sony, but Xbox One, I don't have any contacts. It'd be more work, so it's kind of just it's in the unlikely pile, but still might happen.
What about that the Xbox 360? Is there any chance of it actually coming onto there, or is that
from what I've heard talking to other developers, like the 360 is dead at Microsoft. If you have like problems trying to get your game working on 360, there isn't even anyone there to answer your questions. So it's a real shame. Like I've not moved on to the I've not moved on to the next console generation yet. I still like most of my gaming's on PC, but like it's 360 and PS3 as well. And I imagine a lot of people are like me, but it seems Microsoft's completely abandoned the 360 at this point. Which is really a shame, because there's so many of them out there and so many people only have them. So,
I know. So at the minute it's probably just gonna be Steam and is it Desura as well? Is it possibly
Desura filed for bankruptcy last week.
So
I don't think they're going to be still around. Currently, like it'll be Steam's my focus. Humble Store probably as well. I've got contacts at Humble and like Green Man Gaming, but my focus is PC, Mac, and Linux. And I've got like the beta version works on all three just now, so they're all confirmed.
Well, I guess the good thing is that it's not going to be too demanding on people's computers, so even if the people just have a laptop, they can probably play it on that anyway.
Yeah, hopefully. Currently my laptop's running a bit slow, so I'm hoping to kind of like get it a lot more optimized towards the end. There's no point in doing a lot of that just now. But hopefully it'll run, really well on like I use my old PC occasionally as a test PC, and it runs fairly well on it, so hopefully, if you've got like a, even like a 6-year-old PC, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And, any modern laptop would be fine, and as well as some older ones.
Okay, so there were tons of references in Dead Pixels 1 to like other zombie games and movies and stuff. Is that something we're going to see in Dead Pixels 2? Are you kind of keeping that whole reference thing in?
Yeah, I do feel like I've kind of like the mine of like zombie references is completely empty. Like I can't even like off the top of my head think of many more things. So I've kind of just expanded to movies of kind of like horror movies
Right.
mostly around the 80s, but not exclusively 80s.
Mhm.
There's also like some stores have just been redone in Dead Pixels 2 because it's the same universe. I may as well have the same stores.
Mhm.
I still need to do a lot of them, but a lot will just carry over into Dead Pixels 2.
That was one of the. I went back and played Dead Pixels 1, and I thought I had spotted all the references, but then at the top of the little like screen to buy and sell, it was like what you buying, what you selling, and it's funny how like I missed that one when I first played it, but then I seen it again.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Like there's probably some where like I wouldn't remember them unless I actually replayed at this point.
Yeah.
Because I just kind of like fit them in everywhere. I think there's even like I was thinking about it, like I think nearly every store is a reference to something, and I think there's only like one or two that isn't. And so I think Dead Pixels 2, I'm actually kind of thinking like I don't need to be that over the top. I can, I don't need to sit there and go like I can't think of a reference for this type of store, but I want it. I may as well just put it in. I have quite a few references already in Dead Pixels 2, quite a few Hellraiser ones, which I'm kind of surprised about because I didn't think that I'd put that many in, but then I was kind of like, oh, there's this and there's this and there's this, and it's like it's because Hellraiser's it's one of my favorite films of all time, and so it's just so many little Hellraiser references everywhere just now.
Yeah, I think it's a nice way of kind of breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. Like, I haven't really seen things, I guess, since like Duke Nukem and Metal Gear Solid. There's quite a lot of these kind of like in-jokes the developer has, and I'm actually quite surprised there aren't more of these kind of things in games.
It's weird, like, there seems to be a real backlash against references, and I think it's more like internet stuff. People don't like that because it gets out of date very quickly.
Right.
But I don't know. It's weird. Like I always find it weird. Like I don't consider the references to be that much of a joke. I kind of just consider them to be like, okay, I really like this thing, and if you really like it, then we'll you'll know that we both really like this thing. I'm not like sitting there thinking like, oh, people are going to be laughing so hard at the fact I've named this store this.
It's definitely just cool to see them in the game, kind of.
Yeah, like it's one of those things where like I don't know. I was watching a really low budget martial arts movie with a friend, and there was a point where we're just kind of like, that scene was really, really similar to a scene in Kill Bill, and it's like, do you think Quentin Tarantino watched this awful movie and was like, that scene's kind of cool, I'm going to recreate it in Kill Bill?
More than likely.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure Kill Bill is just every kung fu movie he's ever watched, just all combined into one.
Yeah, it's Quentin Tarantino's kind of like that. He takes things he likes and puts them in his movies. It's just kind of like, his movies are just the best bits of a lot of odd cult movies. And
I think that's the thing with games, is just trying to. A lot of times you're just trying to recreate what you've seen in a movie, and that's why zombie games, I think, at the minute is so good, because you see what you like on TV and you want to just recreate it in a game.
Yeah, I find it weird that like people told me when I released Dead Pixels over 3 years ago, zombie games are over, no one will want to play this. And
they're just getting stronger, I think, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Walking Dead TV show seems to be still going strong. It's getting a spin-off, so I presume it is. And zombie films seem to be still coming out. I think there's going to be a World War Z 2. So.
Oh, nice. I wish Romero would make some more, but I guess he's kind of really old, so I've always wanted some more Romero zombie movies.
Survival of the Dead was not his best movie. Like,
I agree with that.
I can like, I like Diary of the Dead even, but like Survival of the Dead just seemed, I don't know, it's maybe seemed to like go against a little.
It kind of contradicted as well, I suppose, because in Day of the Dead, he kind of played with this idea of zombies retaining their kind of memories.
Yeah. He does it again in Land of the Dead, where you see like the town that's like with no humans around. The zombies just try to sort of be humans but can't quite get it. And then, like, Survival of the Dead, it's like, nah, look, this woman that loved this horse, look as she bites into it because she's a zombie now.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, Survival of the Dead was not the best one, and, like, I don't know if he can get funding to do more. I want to say Survival and Diary he funded himself. So.
Right. Well, actually, we're kind of coming on to another question, because it seems like in Dead Pixels 2 we can actually go inside the shops, and instead of just walking in and pressing the buttons, we can actually explore the shops.
Yeah.
That kind of was a bit reminiscent of Land of the Dead for me. I don't know.
Oh, the scene in, like, the convenience store at the beginning where they're like, I don't know. It just seemed like one of these things where it just seemed like the logical, like, next step. Instead of a menu, you'd actually go in. There were actually, like, plans to have enterable buildings in Dead Pixels 1, but it never happened.
Right.
And it just, like, when it came to, like, making a Dead Pixels 2, I was like, well, I may as well just actually do this, you know, and it's quite fun. It's actually my favourite thing when
the zombies start coming in.
Yes, and when I'm at an event and someone runs into a building to get away from the horde, and then they just pile in through the door. And they can't get out because they're all pouring in, and it's just so fun, like, seeing that.
It does sound like a really interesting sort of dynamic to have. The safety's no longer there, and, like, so could you potentially get trapped by crowds then? They just keep coming in, or?
What it does is it checks for zombies that are, like, when you go in a door, it checks to see if any of them are following you and are fairly nearby, and it'll pull them in. So it won't, once it reaches, like, a certain distance, they don't get pulled in. So it won't, completely like, block you in, but, like, a good chunk will follow you in.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. It sounds like it kind of brings an element of danger to raiding the shops, which is pretty cool.
And you can also, like, sometimes when you go into a store, there is already zombies in there, just kind of wandering around. The only place they won't follow you is into the traders. They're the only safe place.
Okay.
Just because, like, I think. Well, currently I've got it set up so you can't shoot in the traders.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to, like, get into the, like, you're just shooting this trader and they're not dying, and I didn't want to have to make traders like turn violent or die or anything. So it was just kind of, like, easier to go, no, you can't shoot. You can still melee, but you can't shoot. You can't throw grenades. And so if zombies did follow you in, you wouldn't have a way to defend yourself.
I think it'd probably just become more of an annoyance, because you'd be trying to buy stuff and get stuff done, then there'd be zombies attacking you. It'd probably just annoy the player more than anything.
Yeah, probably.
So I seen on your Twitter post, you posted up about how much your coding has changed since Dead Pixels 1. Is that something that the player can see, or is that just from your point of view, it just makes it easier to work?
I mean, like, they get to see that the game's more complex. Like, the fact that you can go into buildings is because I am a better programmer now. Dead Pixels 1, it was just kind of like, okay, these are streets, and, buildings are just a menu, and, like, that's it. Whereas Dead Pixels 2 is just kind of like, okay, a street and a building are just an environment that are tied together. They're not seen differently in the code. Like, I could do branching paths, I can do all kinds of things, because, like, it's all viewed very differently from the game's point of view. And so they will see that, that it's gotten more complex. But I don't know. I don't know if they'd see. There's maybe, like, some improvements as well to performance. Just like my very basic lighting in Dead Pixels 1 was quite a hog, but, like, Dead Pixels 2 lighting system is much more advanced and should be a little less intensive on systems.
Right. Can you reveal any of the new zombies or new weapons at the minute, or?
I've not actually got many new weapons at this point. I've got, like, artwork done for some. I'm mostly just kind of, like, recreating the same weapons. Oh, actually, see, this is weird because, like, I always forget what Dead Pixels 1 is like compared to, like, Dead Pixels 2, and then I'm like, oh yeah, no, Dead Pixels 1 didn't have that.
Right.
There is, like, the weapons are different in a way that like originally you got like 4 types of shotgun. Well, you got like, a normal shotgun, you'd have like the different brands, the 4 brands: Chambers, Redfields, Burton, and Valentine. And that was the only type of shotgun. There was 4 of them, and that was it. And then you got double barrel shotguns, and again there was 4 of them. With Dead Pixels 2, instead you get different levels of shotgun, and then you also get different brands. And so you can get like a level 4 Burton shotgun and like a level 4 Chambers shotgun, and they just have slight variations to their stats. Burton weapons tend to be heavier and more powerful. Chambers ones are cheap and light.
Right.
And then Valentine and Redfield are a bit in the middle. But they all have their kind of advantages, and so you might actually find like a level 3 Burton shotgun that's actually better than a level 4 Chambers.
Right.
Just because the Burton's a more powerful gun. And so there is like a large variety in weapons because it's all generated off formulas now. And I'm also coding in custom weapons, which is kind of similar to in Torchlight. You could get enchanting weapons, and they'd get like unique stats and bonuses. And it's kind of the same thing. If you've got like a shotgun, you can't find a better shotgun, but you need something a little better. You could get it upgraded by one of the traders, and it'll get like random bonuses, and then the more times you try and do this, the higher the chance you're going to break the gun. But you could probably do it maybe up to 4 times before you're down to like 50-50 whether it's going to get broken or not. So it gives you...
It's a bit of a gamble then.
Yeah. There's a kind of risk reward to it. But the first time you do it, it's always going to be fine. It's just like, then the second time, it's like, okay, there's a 10% chance this might get broken, and then 20, 30, 40. So you've got to kind of think about like, do I want this? Do I need a better gun, or do I need to have a gun? So there is quite a variety in weapons. I'm going to be probably doing effects as well. Like there was in the original, there was like freeze guns and electric guns and fire guns. I'm still doing a lot of that. There's going to be a more variety though. I was actually just coding some of it this morning. There's different effects like poison and like bleed and acid. So they'll all have slightly different effects on the enemies.
So you could potentially poison an enemy and then just kind of run away from it, and I'll just slowly die.
Yeah. I'm probably going to have to like work out what's the difference between setting them on fire and poisoning them and running away, because I feel like there should be a bit of a difference. I mean, although technically, like the original Dead Pixels, not a lot of people saw this, but like when it was raining and a zombie was on fire, there was a chance it would go out. And again, it's the same in Dead Pixels 2. So poisoning might end up being better because
exactly,
they're not going to go out.
I think some people just I think there are some pyromaniacs out there that just like putting things on fire, and then there's some people that are a little more tactical and they like to poison things, and I guess you'll find people just use whatever they have liked from other games. So, I'm also going to be like I'm probably going to be working in, so you get like different levels of fire damage as well. So you can have something that is level 1 fire damage, just scorches them.
And then like level 5 fire damage.
So I'd seen in a trailer there was a boss. Is there going to be a boss at every level, or how many bosses are there?
I'm not sure how many there's going to be in total. I want them to be much more unique than the Dead Pixels 1. There was kind of bosses in Dead Pixels 1, but they often just kind of like ended up in the crowd. And so I'm coding bosses that have much more of a kind of pattern to their attacks. So currently the one that's in the game just now is the Butcher, which was actually named after one of the enemies in Dead Pixels 1 was called the Butcher. And I just kind of like took the name across, but it's a completely different enemy.
Right.
Whereas the Butcher in Dead Pixels 2 is a zombie that has a shotgun. He's not particularly accurate or fast with it, but he will fire it when he's lined up with a player, and he'll actually injure other zombies that that are in the way. But he then has like other forms. Once you've defeated him with that, he's got another form, and he's got another one after that. So it's kind of an escalating thing. It's from what I've seen of people actually playing against the Butcher, it is a fun experience. I didn't want to just do a kind of I don't want it to just be a damage. Yeah, bullet sponge where like, okay, it's just a normal zombie, but you've got to just keep shooting at them. I wanted them to be like, okay, you're going to have to like think about what its attacks are now.
Yeah, I quite like that, and the first Dead Pixels did feel really tactical. I think when I first played it, I just played it as any other kind of top-down shooter and just kept firing away. But then I realised the best thing to actually do is get the zombies in a crowd and then start shooting them, because you get like more bang for your buck with your shotgun and stuff. You
also get it's kind of a bit like a shoot 'em up, like a top down shoot 'em up, spaceship one, where you can like when the spit's coming, you can actually like avoid it. Yeah. It was kind of always important to me that like you can actually avoid enemy shots. Yeah. So that like that's one of the reasons you never fight humans in Dead Pixels, because their guns would work like yours and it'd just be a kind of instant thing. I wanted you to always be able to kind of like go up and down and avoid shots. Yeah. So we sort of touched on the RPG elements a wee bit, but how in depth is the customizing the character and stuff like that? In Dead Pixels 2, there's now there's a character editor, so you can like change body parts. This is why I've got someone doing legs. It's because like I don't want to like just have one set of legs.
I'm really looking forward to seeing these legs.
So like there's multiple sets of legs, and then you can like change the colours, and you can change skin tone and hair colour and everything. Yeah. And then once you're in game, you've got the same skills almost. There was one change. Originally it was health, strength, luck, shooting and melee, whereas now did I say luck?
Yeah, luck. Yeah.
Whereas now it is stamina, which is both strength and health. Because I felt like it was a bit cruel making people level up strength to carry more stuff and not getting any other bonus. Yeah. So it's now just stamina, shooting, melee, luck, and throwable weapons and explosives is a skill as well. And it's kind of, I pretty much just stole the Mass Effect system of every few levels you get like a choice between two perks. Okay. And then there's also going to be another trader that you may find that'll have the ability to like let you unlock skills that you wouldn't normally get through the normal tree. But you end up paying in skill points. So if you don't have any skill points when you meet her, then you won't be able to unlock them. But you'll get stuff from her that you wouldn't normally get any other way. Okay. Well, I actually have a question from a friend who's like a big Dead Pixels 1 fan. And he was wondering, will there be like a sort of kind of new game plus, or is there any plans for like an endless mode where you can use the character that you've just ranked up? I totally want you to be able to just like take the character that you've just played with and just put them in again at maybe a harder difficulty, or even like an easier difficulty, but you're playing with a friend or something, and maybe just have the option of like, do you want to reset them, or do you want to just like keep playing with them, or how do you want to do it? I'm going to have to like try and work out how to like keep the game going. It feels a little bad to just like level zombies up with the player. It feels a little cheap. So I'm going to have to be working on like making sure the game stays challenging without just no matter what level you're at, this zombie will always be this compared to you. I don't know if you've played Dark Souls, but that's pretty much what they do. They just make more enemies, or like kind of make them a bit harder. So I wouldn't feel bad about doing that. I think people do, like, once they've spent and like invested a lot of time in a character, they want to just keep using that character. So I mean, I think it would be good just to have a new game plus and make it more difficult. I think what I may do is have different levels of all the zombies. So you might get like, it probably wouldn't be leveling up with the player, but like maybe every 10 levels the player goes, like the zombies start to jump up as well. I've already kind of thought about like having skin tones representing different levels of zombies as well, as a kind of like a quick way to like look at them and go, okay, right, this one's actually tougher. So Dead Pixels 1 is
8-bit game, Dead Pixels 2 looks more like a 16-bit game. Is that the case? Like, did you decide just to up the bit count? Or?
Well, I kind of decided that it's like a 10-year jump. Of the original was it was set in 83. It was kind of inspired by 70s movies and 8-bit games, and so the new one's set in 91. It's 16-bit games and it's VHS. Because I watched a lot of documentaries on like grindhouses and drive-ins making Dead Pixels, and like they all said like VHS was what killed the grindhouse.
Right.
And I was kind of like, well, if I'm doing a sequel, I guess it should be VHS then.
Yeah.
Because it used to be that like anyone could make a film and like get it shown in a grindhouse or a drive-in, and then like when VHS came out, it's like people wanted to watch that stuff at home, and also it was easier to make films for VHS.
Yeah.
So that's where like a lot of the weird like people making their first movies went. So it seemed like a logical jump.
So the videotape seems to replace the film grain effect that was in the first game. Does it actually play a part in the game, or does it just kind of come up on screen?
It will. It gets more distorted if you're low in health. I have thought about. I don't know if you've seen Kung Fury.
I haven't. No.
Have you heard of it? Or
I haven't actually even heard of it. No.
I'll send you a link. It's this 80s like short film it's like hyper 80s, and there is actually a point where there's like a fight scene, and like it's all done like it's got VHS effects, and the tracking fades in it, like it goes all staticky, and like the fight scene's in a completely different place, and it happens again, and like they're in space fighting, and you don't get to see like the in-between bits between the how they got there. Is
it to do with football as well, or maybe I'm getting it confused with some other part?
It's
is it a parody though of a kung fu film, or is it just genuinely
it's a kind of parody. It's basically about a guy who's like going back in time to kill Hitler.
Sounds pretty good.
It's really good. It's like half an hour. It was on Kickstarter like a year and a half ago, and I like backed it instantly. And it just got released for free on YouTube like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's definitely a fun watch. A lot of funny bits in it.
Look out for that one. I looked on your Twitter account, and there seems to be like lots of films on there. I seen one of them was They Live, the John Carpenter movie.
Yeah.
Have you seen that recently?
I think I've seen it this year.
Yeah,
maybe towards the end of last year.
You're talking about all the 80s stuff. There was one scene where the main character has a fist fight in an alleyway with his friend.
Oh yeah, with Keith David, and it's like it goes on for like half an hour.
Oh my god, it's like the most 80s thing I've ever seen. It's
from what I've heard, like that was supposed to be like a 1 minute fight scene,
right?
And instead, it just goes on for like 7 minutes.
Drags on and on. It's insane.
It's just kind of like put the glasses on, and it's just punching each other. It's like I won't put the glasses on. Support punching.
Insane.
Yeah, I think John Carpenter. My favorite John Carpenter movie is Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, it's
which
brilliant.
I have watched so many times in like the past 2 years.
I actually bought it on DVD recently as well.
Well, I like. It was weird. Like I saw it when I was like a teenager, and I really loved it. And then I saw it again when I was like late teens, and I was like, "This is stupid."
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, as an adult, I'm like, I'm not sure which version of me was right. And so I bought it on DVD. I was like, I love this movie, and then bought it on Blu-ray. And then like I think I've watched it like 3 times since getting it on Blu-ray, including Arrow Video have done the release for the UK and Northern Ireland, and it's one of the like special features. Arrow Video are great at doing like as many special features as possible, and one of the special features is just like watch the movie with only the music, none of the like the sound effects, so you could just like listen to the music of the film.
Yeah, his music, John Carpenter's music's brilliant. So it is.
Yeah, he released an album earlier this year that was theme songs for movies that don't exist.
Oh, no way.
And it's just like it's just a whole load of theme songs for movies that have never been made, that don't exist, that he would have made.
Oh wow.
That's really good. That was like an instant buy for me.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Snake Plissken. I would say I'd probably Escape from LA and New York were probably my favourite. I loved Chinatown just because it was a chance for me to see that Kurt Russell playing a kind of Snake Plissken-like character again. So
I think like for Kurt Russell, for me, I've always liked him in his like more comedic roles.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say like
he's probably taking himself too seriously in Escape from LA.
Yeah, not that like I dislike this film. It's just like I really like Kurt Russell when he's like just a bit more of a comical character.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Bruce Willis. Like I love him in his comedy his more comedy roles. You know, like Die Hard has quite a bit of comedy in it, and then when he's like just this grumpy guy, I normally don't enjoy it as much.
Yeah. What kind of zombie movies would you remember from your childhood then, or what kind of zombie movies inspired you to make Dead Pixels 1?
I mean, like, there was a point where I was absolutely obsessed with the original Night of the Living Dead. I don't know why. Like, I think I saw it late night at some point, and just like I watched it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really long time before I say a really long time. I was 16 before I saw Day of the Dead. I think I saw Dawn of the Dead, like, because it got shown enough, but Day of the Dead was it was one of those films where like it wasn't popular enough to get shown on TV very often. Yeah,
it was kind of, I'd have to agree with that. It wasn't really shown very often.
So like the first time I saw that was like, it was the very first thing I bought on eBay was
you'd have to go out of your way to actually buy it to watch it, I guess.
But I quite like Day of the Dead. Looking back, like the first like 5 minutes of Day of the Dead, that was like my inspiration for Dead Pixels 2.
Yeah, they kind of running along the streets in the helicopter and stuff.
This is just some place that has been abandoned for quite some time. It's not like the middle of a zombie outbreak. It's the humans are gone.
Mm-hmm. Even the soundtrack to that start bit is really, really good.
Yeah, it's really great, and there's some great like zombie effects. There's the zombie that's referred to as Dr. Tongue that like has his jaw,
mouth. His mouth,
like the tongue hanging out. But I'm trying to think what other zombie films I really liked when I was growing up. I mean, Planet Terror, it's a bit later, but that was a big inspiration for Dead Pixels.
It's like kind of one of those, you were talking about the Kung Fu movie earlier, it's like, I love how it's intentionally badly made. It's like missing rail and it just kind of jumps over the place. I think it's really, really well done. It was done
really well, and I think what makes it work well, that like a lot of other movies that are trying to be purposefully bad, it don't work out, as the characters take themselves seriously in Planet Terror. Like they're all so serious, even though like something stupid's happening or they're doing something stupid, and I think that really works well, whereas I feel like a lot of movies that are trying to be bad, like, don't take themselves seriously, and so it's just all silly. Whereas like Planet Terror worked really well, and a lot of the fake trailers that were made for Grindhouse, to go between Planet Terror and Death Proof, a lot of them are really good as well at doing that.
Yeah, there was a cool thing with Planet Terror where every character, it's almost as if they knew what was going to happen to them. There was always like a line where like, if I catch you doing this, I'll kill you, or like the mum gives the gun to the kid and he's like, now be careful or you'll shoot yourself, and then like that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, maybe a bit like I recently was rewatching Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright's Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and they often they have little clues dotted throughout of like what happens to all the characters, just stuff like, next time I see you, you're dead. Just stuff like that, and then it actually it comes true. I really love Planet Terror. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. I even have like on my desk right now, I have like action figures from it, and to be honest, they look awful. They don't look like the actors they're supposed to be at all, apart from the Quentin Tarantino one. But I love them.
I think I'm going to just end with a couple. There's going to be like 2 questions I'm going to ask to pretty much every indie developer I get on the show. So the first is, what game would you make if you had, say, after Dead Pixels 2 comes out and it's going to be the success we all know it's going to be? What if you had an unlimited budget and unlimited manpower? What game would you make?
If like my budget allowed me to buy licensed properties, I'd probably say like I'd really love to make I don't know if you're familiar with Games Workshop and their
Yes,
tabletop
yes.
and board games. Necromunda, I really like the kind of like the 80s, 90s like sci-fi style of that, and the gangs fighting. Because no one else has made a Necromunda game yet, that's probably what I'd love to do. But Games Workshop seems to be selling those licenses everywhere, and like I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Necromunda game announced before I finish Dead Pixels 2.
Well, there's that like Space Hulk game, which is technically, isn't it based off a Workshop board game?
Yeah, Space Hulk. There's been a few Space Hulk games, but there was one very recently. There was one that's based off the board game, and there is one currently in development that's a first-person shooter.
Right.
Because, as I say, Games Workshop just seem to be selling their licenses to everyone. There is, like, I have lost count of the number of Warhammer games currently in development. Yeah. Which it kind of bothers me because, like, most of them are going to be bad.
Yeah, it doesn't really sort of encapsulate the whole tabletop part, or even, I mean, I think taking a strategy game and making it into a first-person shooter, I just don't think necessarily works.
Yeah, they seem to be, the games are all over the place. Like, there's tower defense Warhammer games and all kinds of stuff. Dawn of War, made by Relic, was arguably the best because it was a strategy game. And it maybe didn't exactly follow like the tabletop game, how squads are put together and stuff like that, but it was a really fun game, taking that world and then making a game around it. I also, like, I guess if I had like unlimited budget, I remember posting about the Warhammer game I'd like to see on some forum, and like my idea would be a Mass Effect styled game involving Inquisitors, because the Inquisitors are basically the Spectres of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, where they can just pretty much request anything and get it given to them, and their entire purpose is to kind of investigate humanity for signs of corruption.
Yeah.
And so they make a really good like part of the Warhammer 40,000 universe that maybe isn't the Space Marines, that's still really, really interesting. There's like role-playing games based off like that part, Dark Heresies, based off the Inquisitors.
Yeah. I don't know why so many people decide to take something that's strategy or role-playing and then just put it into a first-person shooter, like just remodel the most recent first-person shooter into that world, because it doesn't really have any longevity. But I find that when you get these kind of really niche strategy kind of games, they'll just be good for forever because they're just strategy games and it doesn't matter about graphics or anything like that.
I think maybe just when you're doing something niche, you have to do it kind of well for it to be popular. Yeah. Whereas
people can see through it if you don't, I think.
Yeah, whereas like you can probably get away with a first-person shooter a lot easier.
Yeah, well, I suppose it sells that year, and then it'll probably never be looked at again, though.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I was recently like replaying. No, actually, I was playing it for the first time, Gears of War Judgment, and all I could think was like, I have not even heard this game like talked about in like years at this point.
Yeah.
It's just been like completely forgotten. But I was playing through it because like I'd bought it and it was sitting in this pile, and I was like, oh, I'd actually like to play through that. So
yeah. Okay, so this I think is going to be the last question, but it's you've been making games for quite a while now. So what advice would you give to developers that are just starting out, or what advice would you give to yourself, your younger self, that you've sort of learned?
I think the advice like I always give, it sounds cruel, but it's like, your first game's going to be awful. It's just like it happens to everyone. Everyone's first game is bad. Like, and people bring up all these like indie game celebrities, and it's like, no, that's their first game that was popular. They were making games before that, or they like made 8 revisions of that game before they released it. You learn a lot, and I think as long as you kind of take in what advice you're given and like what playtesters say. You don't have to, like, when I say that, people often think like I'm saying like, oh no, you should like bow down and do exactly what a playtester tells you, and I don't think that. But what I do think is that like the original Dead Pixels, like I got people telling me the walk speed's too slow, And like I didn't want to put it up too high because I wanted you to be slow in the beginning so you could level it up.
Yeah.
But I just put it up until people stopped complaining. And then I was like, okay, people aren't complaining here, so that's the walk speed.
Yeah.
I didn't like, jump it ahead really far. So I kept what I wanted without, them doing exactly what they told me to do.
Yeah.
And I've done the same with Dead Pixels 2 as well. When someone complains about something, I just tweak it until like they stop complaining, so I keep my vision. But that's how you make a game people like, which end of the day you're trying to do.
Yeah. So learn from feedback, and you're probably going to make a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like people, go on about big studios and how like they do playtesting, and it's advice given is completely wrong. I heard about like Psychonauts. Apparently, there was like some document that Microsoft had given Double Time, I think they'd done it. Double Fine, that's it. This document like saying, oh, this. You've got to change this, you've got to change that. And like that's a big company. Like when you're a small indie game and you've got testers, they probably
days
want
of work.
well, the testers you get as a small indie dev are probably the people that actually want to play your game.
Right.
They're not people that are like paid to do it. So they're probably going to give slightly better advice. I don't know. I every now and then I get like the odd piece of advice. At least with Dead Pixels 2, I make people pay to test it.
Right.
So I know they're interested. They want that game. So I know I can listen to them. Whereas like with Dead Pixels 1, some of the testers were just random other developers, and I'd get stuff like I can't remember. I got like a whole load of random advice, and all I could think was like, this game's been out for a year. I was just putting it in playtesting to make sure there were no bugs.
Yeah.
I did once get a random post on a website that was it was some guy basically giving me a big list of things that I should change in Dead Pixels, and then telling me that like I shouldn't charge money for it, I should give it away for free.
Oh my god.
And like he was like, yeah, and I'm a game developer, so I know about this stuff. And I was like, well, at this point Dead Pixels has sold 76,000 copies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to trust that more than what you tell me. And I was like, also it was on Desura, and I was like, also
how do you feed myself?
What?
How do you feed yourself?
There was it was on Desura, and it had a little like Desura has a thing that says like this person owns your game, and he didn't. So he didn't own Dead Pixels, so he either pirated it or like played it elsewhere, and was giving me all this feedback about how it should be free. So it was sometimes it's worth ignoring people, but like I think like if people are wanting to test your game, they're probably telling you good things.
I remember they remade Perfect Dark on the Xbox Live Arcade, and I thought it was pretty much perfect. But this guy came onto the Xbox forums and had this like pages and pages of how it's broken and how it's terrible, and it was like things where the menu wasn't the same as the old menu, and it's just like, wow. I mean, if this is the kind of thing you're going to complain about, you'll just never please some people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I really love the game Ikaruga.
Yeah,
and they done a re-release on Xbox Live Xbox Live Arcade, and I remember seeing like the person that had like the world record for Ikaruga had actually like he had like this big long list. He said it was like, it's a good version, but here's a big long list of all the little changes they've changed, that actually affect it. I kind of sometimes feel like games are kind of like a magic trick, and they're only fun if you don't know how it's done. Yeah. And so I think with the internet, like people are over-examining things and then like posting it, and then other people are reading it, and they're kind of ruining the magic trick of like, I mean, the second you kind of like know how some of the systems work in behind the scenes in Dead Pixels, it's maybe not as fun, like upgrading certain stats because they don't do as much. Yeah. But I kind of feel like everyone should just like do what they want and have fun. That's how I want people to play games. That's how I play games. Not getting like too overly obsessed with what's going on behind the scenes and talking with everyone else about it. That's kind of why a lot of people insist Diablo 3's bad. Whereas if you played that game in a vacuum, you'd probably think it was okay. But because everyone's grouped together,
too much hype,
yeah, they've all kind of like over-examined everything. They know, what's going on behind the scenes, what works, what's slightly broken, and all that. And it ruins the fun.
Is there any sort of clues on a release date or anything like that? Are we still really far away? Or
I'm really, I want to be done. I think some people think I'm like purposefully like
holding back,
not releasing it. And it's like, I want to sell it and make money. That sounds great. I also would like to not be working on a game usually every day. I'm going to be like aiming, if not for this year, then the very beginning of next year. I ideally want to release it this tax year because it's going to look really sad when I like file my accounts of like, I've not made much money this year, and I'm just like digging a hole of like licensing music and paying for legs and stuff. So I would like to be profitable this tax year. So hopefully, if not end of this year, then like the first quarter of next year.
Okay.
I'm kind of like online's the last really big thing, and then it's a lot of content. And so like I don't know, online has proved to be like a soul crushing thing to work on. So hopefully it'll be done soon, and then I'm just kind of basically sit around and make content and just add that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like big left to code.
Oh, that's good. Well, look, thanks for coming on the show, and I'll make sure and tweet all about Dead Pixels 2 when it's getting closer to launch.
Yeah, thank you.
So good luck with everything, and thanks for coming on.
No problem.